Okay, in this video we're going to look at pricing and how to basically go about what the prices are, the services are, discounting, as well as talk about how you can actually set the price of the services depending on the market. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit over here. So the first thing I want to say, there's two sets of basic charges that are going to the client will have to pay. There's the initial setup for that particular service. So if it's either the website design or the Google Places, they have to they're going to pay the initial setup fee, and then there's a monthly fee which goes along with each of those services. I'm going to explain that in a second to you over here. So for the first service over here, website design, the setup fee is $4.97. And then there's a monthly hosting charge that has to go with that. It's $25 a month hosting. Now, if you're not familiar with what hosting is, it's basically when you're online, like if you're in an offline business, you usually own a store or you're in a location and you're paying rent. Well, online, the hosting to actually have your website visible to visitors and so on is kind of the same thing as actually having to pay rent, but it's the online version of that. And as you'll notice, it's a lot cheaper than it actually is to own an actual store. So that's what's very appealing about having a website there. So the monthly ongoing is just $25 a month, which is the hosting charge, which is basically that rent charge. And then the initial setup, the website design, like laid out in the like I laid out in the actual services that you can offer video, they get all that for $4.97 over here. Now I've put three little asterisk is next over here, and I put down minimum setup fee. This is the minimum that you need to charge. I'm going to get into that in a second, what that actually means to you there. So for the Google Places, same thing. We've got a minimum. This needs to be a minimum charge of $497, and then the monthly fee on this one here is $197, and it's actually because the Google Places is to guarantee that first page listing over here, but when it comes to the internet, there's ongoing work that needs to be done on a monthly basis to ensure that we keep that first page listing, and that's what this $197 charge is here. It's because once you actually get your listing up on the first page, it's keeping it there, which is sometimes the most difficult part. Because there's other people that are going to try to knock you out and so on. So that's an ongoing fee of $197 a month to maintain that position over here. So let me just talk a little bit about what I mean by minimum setup fee. So both of these services come with a $4.97 minimum setup fee. If you want to sell them for $4.97, that's fine. The reason why I put a minimum over there, because these types of services are going to really cater to where your market is. Now, in the last video I talked about, when we talked about how to what type of businesses to target, I mentioned if you have a barber shop there where he's selling haircuts at $15 to $20 a pop, it's going to take a lot of haircuts in his mind to actually just recoup that $4.97 and to even make up that $197. For him, he might not find as much value in that service over there, as opposed to if you're on a higher end client whose customers pay them several $1,000s a month, for an example like a lawyer, then for him to pay $4.97, you can gear it towards how much a new client for him is. So if you're talking to that client and you go, well, what's the average of a new client that you bring on, and he tells you it's like $5,000, well, then you have the opportunity to actually say, well, the initial setup fee, because your market is more competitive, because more people are going to be going after the guys that have bigger, that have more money, their clients are worth more to them. So it's going to be more competitive. You could sell that the same actually service for $8.97, $12.97, whatever you feel is comfortable, whatever the market will allow. So there is flexibility over there, and you keep your same commission on that there. So that's just a note on that. It is, but the minimum you can actually sell any of these services is $4.97. So if you, as a negotiating tool, if you want to start a little bit higher and then come down to this level, if you're getting some pushback, then just keep that in mind there. But you are entitled to sell the service for whatever price the market will allow, if that kind of makes sense there. The last thing I want to talk about is as far as discounting there. Like we've already talked about that you need to sell each individual service for a minimum of $497. But, for example, you can offer discounts on more than one service. So, for example, someone wants to take you up on the Google Places for $497, but they actually don't have a website at this point. So instead, maybe you could offer them, say, well, you know what, normally we charge $497 for a website, but because you're taking the Google Places service, we will only charge you $297 for that, and then you could package it up, $497 plus $297, and then obviously the ongoing monthly would be $197 plus the $25 hosting, which obviously can't be avoided there. So hope that makes sense. But just really to point out that you guys have an open market really of what you want to charge for these services, and you just really need to gear it towards each individual customer, how much they make per client, and how much value it brings to the service actually brings to them on an ongoing monthly basis.